Welcome back to us. Alongside the Disability Alliance, today we're learning about the Merlin MS Centre. And I'd like to now welcome Sarah Snell. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing good, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, great. I feel a bit underdressed actually, so I thought I'd better get some glitter because you guys look too good. My colleague at work who's adorned my computer in tinsel, even though I don't actually like tinsel, but okay.
I love that.
Not as good as yours, though.
It's better than the glitter we've had going around. That stuff gets everywhere. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Could I start this off by asking you to tell us about your role, what you do, what it involves, that kind of thing?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So my name's Sarah Snell and I'm the centre manager for the Merlin MS Centre. So I suppose my role is anything and everything, from making the tea and coffee to doing strategy and planning around the charity. So we support people in Cornwall who have a neurological condition. We're based in mid Cornwall, so we're in a small hamlet called Hewiswater, just off the A390 between St Austell and Truro.
Amazing. So you sort of briefly mentioned it there, but tell us a little bit more about the Merlin Centre then, and the types of people that you help sort of provide support to.
Yeah, so we're a therapy centre and we support people in Cornwall who've been diagnosed or believe they have a condition that is described as a neurological condition. And these are things like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, stroke, ME. We've actually recently been seeing some people at Merlin with long COVID. We're very much about helping people manage their symptoms. There's quite a lot of conditions that have similar symptoms, and we help them manage them with various therapies that we provide here at Merlin. It's a purpose-built facility, so it's all fully accessible. We have lots of parking. We've got a lovely therapy gym. We have oxygen therapy, which I'll explain what that is in a minute. We have day respite. We have a transport service so we can pick some of our service users up. We've got a really lovely on-site cafe. That's all run by volunteers. It's a really nice social space for people to come and chat to other people in same sort of circumstances as themselves. We've got some new services that we've recently brought back, and we've also got alongside the main centre in the grounds a hydrotherapy pool, which we've literally just reopened. So that's good. It's in a beautiful rural setting. We've got lovely views across farmland, so we're very lucky where we are. A little bit of the history of the Merlin MS Centre charity was that it was actually set up as a charity back in 2003. It took about 7 years of fundraising to get enough money together to build the purpose-built centre that we're in today. Our founders, Derek and Eileen Murphy, had a connection to MS. They had a daughter-in-law with MS, and they also both had medical backgrounds. They retired to Cornwall and wanted really to see what was available for the daughter-in-law that had MS, and there was nothing in Cornwall for people who had been diagnosed with MS. So they called a public meeting. And that was the start of the story of the charity, because after lots of talking, Derek and Eileen used to talk to lots of community groups and organisations, lots of fundraising. And eventually they raised enough money to build Cornwall's first dedicated MS therapy centre, which is where we are today, the Merlin MS Centre. As I say, as time has gone on, we actually see a lot more people with a whole range of other conditions now. Pre-COVID, we keep saying that, don't we? Or BC, before COVID.
Yeah.
We used to see about 100 people a day at the centre. So it's a busy wow. Community. We also have some rooms that we hire out here for other health clinics. So we have a GP practice, we have orthotics, audiology, podiatry, health and wellbeing therapy. So it's a sort of one-stop shop for people that want to come to the centre. But for our own services, charity-run services, it is for those with those neurological conditions that I mentioned.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned the dreaded COVID word there, and we talked about some of the therapies and that you offer. I wanted to ask you, how has sort of the restrictions and lockdown, has that affected you guys in terms of what face-to-face services you can offer?
So when we went to the first lockdown back in March 2020, we, like most other facilities, had to close. And that actually ended up being until end of July, beginning of August. So the centre was closed completely. We retained 4 people not on furlough to carry on reaching out to our service users via telephone, and we did some online exercise sessions. I think what we found in lockdown for many of our client service users, people who would often be quite lonely and isolated anyway, because living with a long-term health condition, it can be quite isolating for people, and also incredibly difficult for carers, unpaid carers, who more often than not are the spouse or a partner or a member of the family. That made the situation in a lot of ways a lot worse. We found people's mental health and well-being was impacted quite a lot, because for some people, coming to Merlin once a week prior to the lockdown would be their weekly outing. Other than that, they might be at home a lot of the time, not able to get out. Not for everybody, some people were working still, but for those people perhaps had a more complex condition or had less support, then having those phone calls, we called it a keep in touch service, having those sort of regular phone calls was really incredibly difficult, incredibly important, because it was an incredibly difficult time. But we were able to reopen some of our services in July, end of July last year, mainly because I think we were recognised as a very vital health and wellbeing service. So it meant that the government guidelines allowed charities that were providing support to the NHS and to the social care sector to continue to deliver services. We did that. We started off with our one-to-one physiotherapy services, our exercise groups, although we had to change the model of operation quite significantly, and also oxygen therapy, which is something that's quite unusual in Cornwall, where people go into what is called a chamber. They breathe oxygen under pressure, which can help with lots of different symptoms. So we started slowly. We did find for a lot of people, and particularly our volunteers as well, that it was building up their confidence to come back to an environment they knew was COVID safe. So we made lots of changes. We've continued to operate under those COVID safe measures. So we have one-way systems in place. We have sanitised points. Everybody that comes to the centre wears a face covering, and that's been the same throughout, even when we didn't need mandatory to wear face coverings. That's been the case at the centre, because obviously a lot of people who come to Merlin are quite vulnerable. Yeah. And we have all our therapy team that deliver face-to-face services, and obviously physio, etc., is hands-on, so they're close up to the client. They wear full PPE with masks and coverings and gloves. So we had to sort of spend quite a bit of money getting PPE and making lots of changes, and quite a significant reduced capacity at the centre. But I'm delighted to say that we are now really sort of back to running most of the services that we did prior to the lockdown. We've recently brought back our day respite service. That's been brilliant, really, because a lot of people who would otherwise need to have a carer with them, their carer can have a break. They can have a break from the duty of care. However much you want to support your loved ones, you do need to have a break sometimes. So the day respite resumed in November, and we were really fortunate that through the Disability Alliance that you mentioned earlier, and the application of funding, we got some money from the Cornwall Council's conf pot. It's community, I think it's contain outbreak. I can't remember the management fund, but we got the funding from that, and that allowed us to convert a space within the centre that had previously been a meeting room, and we turned that into a COVID safe environment for our day respite clients. So we had a new flooring, wipe down tables. We were able to set up our community transport. So we have a completely adaptable minibus that's wheelchair accessible, and that was part and parcel of starting day respite, because it's quite difficult for some people to get to Merlin. So that's been really good. Resuming our lovely cafe. It's all run by volunteers. We now have that open 4 days a week. It's a lovely environment, nice, nutritious, affordable meals, lovely coffees and cake. I know cake maybe isn't always nutritious, but it makes you feel
Sounds good to me.
I'm hungry.
I mean, you got me sold straight away. There was cake. We're in. But
yeah,
amazing. So it sounds like you've got a lot.
It's been a slow return to face-to-face services, but it's a bit more like Merlin used to be, with the sort of the buzz of the place as well now.
Absolutely. It's an amazing centre. It really is, sort of hearing all the different things that you guys get up to there. I think on a personal level, I really want to pick your brains about the hydrotherapy, because I know hydrotherapy is such a beneficial therapy for so many people of various disabilities and conditions. So yeah, talk to me about the hydrotherapy and whether that's up and running, because I am desperate to come. I really am.
Yeah, we're really delighted to say that the hydrotherapy pool was opened on November the 1st. It's been a bit of a story behind the hydrotherapy pool. We had an amazing donation from a lottery winner. We got a £1 million donation that was most of the funding that we needed to build this facility. I mean, we had to do some more fundraising because the overall project cost was 1.3 million.
Wow.
And we opened officially in 2019, and it was great, and our service users loved it, and it was brilliant, and we were really, really excited about it. And unfortunately, a bit of combination of problems. We had some issues with the build, which need to be rectified, but more importantly, and more worrying for the charity trustees, was that the running costs were a lot higher than had been explained to us from the official contractors. So when they have a way of working it out. I can't go into how they do it. I have no idea, but it was had to be closed for a period of time, because we needed to find a more efficient energy solution, which we did. Ground source heating. The intention was to carry out that project in 2020, but of course COVID hit, and contractors meant that wasn't an essential build, if you like, and so we had to put that project on hold, which we did until the beginning of this year. And we completed that project in the end of October. So we now have a much more efficient energy solution, so reducing our carbon footprint and the ability to have renewable heat incentive grants from the government for having this service. So that means our problem, if you like, that we had with the running costs, one big part of it was resolved. The other side of it was that we'd always intended, outside of our own timetable, to use that facility for the wider community. And we have actually got a partnership with a local swim school now. So that's a positive partnership, because it helps us with our running costs. But going back to your sort of question, because there's a bit of story around the bill, but actually what hydrotherapy, I mean, for us, hydrotherapy is something that it's a pool-based therapy program. It's delivered in warm water that's at a constant temperature. We will be delivering those therapies by trained professionals, so our physiotherapists and our therapy assistants who have been trained in hydrotherapy, and they use the water, to take off the weight for people, so it means there's less chance of injury. People can do a lot more exercise in water than they can do in land, because their body is supported by the water. So it really helps to improve their neuromuscular skeletal function. It brings positive benefits in lots of ways. It's a lovely setting. It's quite a small pool. It's about 8 times 4 meters, so it's not a massive pool. It's not designed as a swimming pool, it's designed as a therapeutic pool. We have some great equipment in there. We've got a hoist that can take people from the fully accessible changing room. So if somebody needs that additional help to get into the pool, then they can go from changing area straight into the pool. And we also have what's called a pool dipper. It's like a seat you sit in, and it lowers people into the pool without them having to do that themselves. and then we have some gradient steps down. So not like you sometimes see in pools where you're kind of climbing down a ladder almost, aren't you? Obviously, anyone with mobility issues, that makes it very difficult. So even for those people that have a little bit more mobility, they can still walk into the pool, and then we have that other equipment. We have fully accessible changing areas with a wet room. So it's a big, large open space, and we've got some other changing facilities there. Slightly separate from our building, so it's just a few metres away, and it's designed really nicely. It's got a nice timber framed building, so it looks attractive as well. And then we've got a huge big glass window, so when people are actually in the pool, they can see out over the rural landscape of where we're set. So it's really great. It's a really good facility for a lot of people with different mobility issues. I mean, our way of running the pool will be we will deliver therapies ourselves in the same way that we deliver therapies in the gym. So we will have our therapy team being with the person or with a group of people in the pool, because we'll do both one-to-one sessions and we will do group sessions as well. I think it's quite relevant at the moment that we've had a huge amount of interest, because there is a consultation at the moment over the closure of the hydrotherapy pool facility at Polkai. Well, it used to be called Polkai at St Austell. I mean, our view is that actually it's really important to have both, because we couldn't possibly meet the needs of all the people in the community that might benefit from that service, because in order to deliver and be a sustainable charity, we had to sign and form a partnership with another organisation. So outside of their timetable, which again is incredibly important in Cornwall to teach young people to swim, and teaching them to swim in a warm environment is always better. It's how I learned to swim, actually, in a swimming pool that was lovely and warm. But it's we couldn't just meet the needs of everybody. So we are very mindful that we have to, as a charity, provide services to the people that are beneficiaries. And what we can do outside of that, we will do our best to meet the wider community needs. But I'm sure we just couldn't meet the need, because there's a lot of people. I did go to the public consultation, about 200 people that are on the books at the centre at St Austell. So I'd like to see both facilities still carry on going, really. I think it's really important.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more. Actually, I think it's now going to a full council debate on the matter as well. We've been following this, the news on a lot of the centres, obviously, that are looking at being closed, as well as the hydrotherapy pool. I think it's now going to a full council debate because of a petition that got to 5,000 and then some again. Wow. That was being undertaken. So hopefully something good will come from that. If you don't mind me rolling back a minute, because I remember you mentioning volunteers a little bit earlier. Obviously, you work very closely with volunteers at the centre. For somebody who wants to get involved maybe on a volunteering level, what opportunities are there?
There are lots and lots of opportunities. Yeah, so we couldn't run Merlin without our lovely volunteers. So things like, if people are interested, they like to meet people, we've got opportunities on reception to meet and greet. If people like more the back office, admin, reception, volunteers. We have volunteers that work in the cafe, which is lovely, actually, because it's sort of a nice little team that works there. So if people are interested, they don't have to have prior experience, because we can train them, we can do the food hygiene for them. We also have drivers. We need volunteer drivers at the moment. I mentioned earlier that we run the minibus service, and not only the drivers, but maybe someone that doesn't feel comfortable driving a minibus, we always need people to support them. So often what we have is we'll have the driver and another person that will help get people in and out of the minibus, make sure there are any wheelchairs are locked in, so that's opportunities there for the volunteers. We also, I mentioned oxygen therapy before. The volunteers that work in oxygen therapy are very committed, because they go through a process of learning how to look at the dials as people are going into oxygen, where yet they go to a certain atmospheric pressure. So that's quite important, and they actually do get a certificate for for doing that. So we also require volunteers that support the garden and the maintenance around. We've been really lucky actually, because we've got a lovely team. From one of our trustees has got a couple of chaps that help him. They come every week to mow the lawns and tidy around. And we've also engaged the services with the probation service, who bring people along and help keep the grounds tidy. It's a massive job, and we were really mindful after lockdown that the grounds didn't look very clean and tidy, but bear in mind a lot of our volunteers are also of a certain age, and that some of them have their own health conditions, so we just needed to make sure that we we could bring the garden up to how it used to be, because it's so beautiful. We also have people that we've got a team now of volunteers, but always looking for more to support the day respite service. I mentioned that we got funding for that, so that's a lovely environment to work in. So I do lots of activities. This week our clients have been decorating our Christmas tree, and we brought in some lunch for them. So they had pasties this week, actually, I have to say. So that was really nice. That's lovely, because if somebody quite likes doing any craft activities or got ideas, we do lots of different activities for those people that come for the day. And when the weather's good, we take them out. We play games outside, and we all arrange outings to different venues as well. So, lots and lots of activities. I mean, obviously, anybody in the community that wants to fundraise for Merlin, as volunteer fundraisers, again, that's incredibly important. We don't get any government funding at all, so we have to raise all the money that we bring in to run the services through various fundraising activities, be it from trusts and grants or from donations or our little retail shop. That's another thing I should mention. We have a lovely retail outlet, which is really completely run by two lovely ladies, Di and Liz, that fill up all the new stock. They order stock in, they make sure it's priced correctly, and it always looks lovely. We've got some beautiful Christmas gifts in the centre, so that's been great. So that's another area if anyone's interested. Lots of opportunities. And as I mentioned, being a volunteer isn't just about giving something to the charity. I mean, being a volunteer, you get a lot back from it. I mean, we've got people who've made lifelong friends. They get a lot of interest. Some of our volunteers on reception are incredibly good at, being very welcoming, and particularly for those people that might be coming to Merlin for the first time and feel a bit apprehensive. So there's lots and lots that volunteers can do, and it's an incredibly important role. And you don't have to do something you've done before. If you've worked in something all your life and you want something different, then it's a great opportunity for you to do that work within a local Cornish charity.
Absolutely. And I think it just shows, doesn't it, the emphasis on volunteers in a lot of different sectors. We rely on these people, so
exactly,
it's fantastic.
I want to say quickly, thank you very much, obviously, for taking the time to talk to us today. But quickly, want to ask as well. We got some photos in a minute to look at, but in a nutshell, what does the future hold for the Merlin MS Centre in 2022?
Well, the good news is, that we're here, we're surviving, we've survived COVID. We're in a much more secure financial position than we were a few years back when we went through quite a challenging time. We've got a really exciting project coming up, which is that we've managed to get some funding to turn some of our outside space into a sensory journey garden. And what that means is for people that perhaps want to practice the different terrains in Cornwall with their mobility aids or their wheelchairs, so we'll have some cobbles and sand and other terrains. I was in Truro yesterday, and I'm always really mindful of how difficult it is for people with disabilities to actually get in and around Truro. Even though it's a beautiful city and lots of history and heritage, it's actually quite tricky. So we were really, really lucky. That's a fully funded project that we're going to be starting on next year. And another thing that is an exciting project for the Merlin MS Centre is that we are expanding our reach to a wider age group. So we specialise in something called sensory integration therapy, and that's a therapy that has always been connected to children, and we now provide a service for young people that might have neurodiversities such as autism, Asperger's syndrome, dyspraxia, learning difficulties. So we have some lovely equipment here, including a massive ball pool that apparently one of our therapists got stuck in the other day, which was hilarious. I wish I'd seen it, actually. But lots of swings and equipment. So looking at their vestibular system and their sensory perceptors to help them understand the world better. So that's a great new service. So really looking for Merlin to be a centre of excellence for anybody in Cornwall who has a neuro condition or diversity across the age range. So that's our vision for the charity, and touch wood we can carry on, but it's got to be from the support of people in the community that will help us by fundraising, donating, supporting a community event, holding an event for themselves, 100%. Or coming up with ideas or volunteering. So yeah, we've got a really good future ahead of us, hoping that there's not too many more lockdowns or changes, but we are aware that it's such an important service that we will continue to provide it for the people of Cornwall.
Yeah, absolutely well said. You know, it does need to be, the community does need to come together to help, to get the help back, in a sense. We got a few photos here. We're fast running out of time, but if we have a look at these, could you give us a quick rundown of what's going on?
I will. I can't remember what I sent you now. Oh, this is our day respite service when they were doing Tai Chi. That they were doing a little Tai Chi session. So that's just been done there. So that's in the purpose-built room. So that's really lovely to see them doing some exercises in their chairs there and having fun.
Aww.
Yeah, so this was a craft session that we did. So we've got through the funding that we had, we've been able to run some workshops. We've got a whole range of different workshops going on. So I'm sure they're a lot more skilled. But this has been part of our Christmas decorations as well. So that's been really lovely. Yeah, more of the same. I think it's just nice. I don't know if you can see the doors in the fire doors in the back, but that leads out to the garden area. Oh, so for somebody coming to respite, when the weather's good, we'll be taking them outside. That's really lovely as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Ooh,
so this is our hydrotherapy pool in action. So these are two of our therapists. We've got Mel me facing the picture on the left hand side. Mel is our clinical lead and she's our neurophysiotherapist. And on the right hand side is Jackie, the therapy assistant. So for some people coming into the hydrotherapy pool, we will need, sort of more support. So to therapists with a person having the support. So it is really important to have that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming in to talk with us today, Sarah. Been lovely, really lovely. I see your passion as well for it. It shines through. I look forward to having you again on in the new year, if that's all right with you.
Lovely, yeah, and happy Christmas to you all there at Chaos TV. We're delighted to be able to come along and talk about the work, and we will pass the link on our social media sites if we're allowed to, so we can spread the word.
Of course.
Lovely.
Thank you very much for coming on the show,
Thank
Sarah.
you.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. How lovely.
Brilliant.
Very lovely. Been down there once for an appointment myself, just a regular GP appointment.
Yeah, it's a lovely little place, and especially that pool. I just want to get in.